Hey guys, Professor Bill of Comic Book University, and a special free comic books day, well, a couple days afterwards, version of the Nerdarchy Takeover. So check this out. We're going to be doing a couple things here. I'm going to be talking about how to make a character, talking about a couple latest comic books, talking about what I'm doing over on my channel, very specifically the Marvel Superheroes Advanced Role-Playing Game System rule set that I'm talking about this week. And on top of that, I'm going to go and D&Dize yet another character, actually two. Okay, so and it's Wolverine and Sabretooth, just for the sake of conversation. Little sick. I don't have a healing factor. Okay, so really simple. Let us start off talking about Groot. All right, I get so many people asking me about Groot. Look, let's just make this short, sweet, simple, cut and dry, and easy. You ever hear of a treant? Yeah, no joke, like that. Okay, I mean, with so many animated, like freaking plant life, for crying out loud, like super foliage everywhere. No, this is easy, man. When it's like fully grown Groot, treant, and then you can go from like the walking tree to like a little sprigging, you know what I'm saying, like teenage Groot and stuff like that. And like even when he's a little tiny thing in a potted plant, but like, awakened shrubbery, dude, it's all there. It's all there. You don't have to modify anything. The worst you got to modify is that the treant, when Groot gets to a certain age, he's able to start saying, "I am Groot." He's actually highly intelligent. Okay, this is one of the things to understand. Groot has a form of elongation, just, like vine whip and vine, like you pull people closer and whip them, and like entangling roots and things like that. In the comic books, he doesn't have that healing factor thing, you know what I'm saying? But whatever, whatever. You could do that if you want, like throwing good berries at people, all right? Have some fun with it, you know what I'm saying? Use them as like little magic missiles, bing! You take 24 damage, but you heal 1, and you're not hungry anymore for 24 hours. Have some fun with it, you know what I'm saying? Just remember that Groot is actually extremely intelligent, a whole lot more intelligent than you and I would be, all right? He's actually a floral colossus. That's the name of his race. And the thing is that his hard wood and solid oaken throat, when he speaks, no matter how complicated the dialect is, he's always just going to make it sound like "I am Groot." And it's only with fine understandings of what he's, saying, or by hanging out with him a long time, like Rocket Raccoon, they can tell, what he's actually saying. But when he gets to treant age, when he gets to full size, like, bigger than regular Vin Diesel adult-sized Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy 1, no, when he gets bigger than that, and the dude seriously can grow to like 80 feet tall, something like that, 20, 30, 40 feet tall, then he can actually make full sentences. Somehow he's more malleable there. So, excuse me, so that's Groot, all right? And D&Dize in about a minute. Let's talk about some of the latest comic books that are out, my peeps, because it was free comic book day this week. And, man, Marvel, DC, everybody, nobody's playing around here. So first off, I'm going to show you an IDW comic book, all right? Star Trek Through the Mirror from Next Generation. We just had 5 amazing issues a couple months ago of Mirror Broken, where it's basically the dark mirror verse of Star Trek Next Generation. These 5 issues were one of the most amazing Star Trek stories I've ever seen, bar none. I mean, take the episodes, whatever. Nothing compared to this. This was sick. Well, now, that dark generation, that dark mirror verse, is actually going through the mirror, and it's insane. Just this first issue, and this is going to be weekly throughout May, so I am digging the heck out of this. Okay, Avengers has just slipped back to issue number 1. Jason Aaron, who is writing the Death of the Mighty Thor for the past couple of years, he's been writing Thor, and now he's going to be writing group effort, and it's really good stuff. Batman versus, Deathstroke issue number 31 is Deathstroke versus Batman. This is part 2 of 6, and this is pretty good so far. Batman's son may not actually be his son. It may actually be his son. Guys, a free comic book that is out right now is DC Nation issue number 0. In this, you're going to get the prelude, and it's amazing. The prelude to Batman and Catwoman's wedding, where Joker finds out about it, and he's looking for an invitation. That's right, he wants to be the best man. There's also the new Justice League story coming out in here. There's also one of the earlier Brian Michael Bendis Superman stories in here. So 3 different stories in here. You can get it online for free, just by going to the DC Comics website, or you can walk into a comic book store. Believe they've got to have a whole bunch of these. I mean, they got boxes of these for free. So a whole bunch of these, they're out there. Go grab it. Excuse me, there's fitting Hunt for Wolverine, because our Wolverine is back. There's just so much out here. One of the things I really want to get to, really want to have a good conversation about, is this one right here. Nope, that's not the one. Darn it, how'd that get there? I was looking for this one. Remember those old Choose Your Own Adventure comic books? Yeah, you ever want to do it with Deadpool? Because that's exactly what happens here. This is legit a Choose Your Own Adventure with Deadpool. This is issue number 1 of 5. You actually need all 5 books in order to fully tell the story. I went through the story. I genuinely chose my own adventure. You need a 6-sider or 2d6, but you need like a 6-sider or so. And actually, there was one part where you need a 3d6, but you can do it with 1. You know how to do that. And it said, okay, your next step is to go to book 3 and start there. It's like, book 3? I got to wait a couple weeks for this? So this should be weekly, and this is really fun. This is so much fun. If you go and check out my podcast that I just put out, it's a video podcast that I put on my YouTube channel, Comic Book University. You will see my haul of comic books that I got for Free Comic Books Day because everything was cheap. I've also been winning a couple of online auctions, and I've been seriously upgrading my comic book content, so I'm just ecstatic about that. Also, just wanted to tease Doug Vahovic a little bit because, yeah, look at my Mr. Miracle. And for the sake of conversation, he's got a mother box that fits right into his hand. How awesome is that? And yes, he's got his floaty discs. Just saying. Just saying. So anyway, what I'm doing on the channel, I'm doing a whole bunch of Explained in a Minute. I just had my very first truly viral video go out. I breached 100,000 views in just 4 or 5 days. I forget what it was. I lost count. But anyways, whatever. It went like boom, crazy. It is the #1 video that is explaining Captain Marvel. I don't want to go into spoilers for the Infinity War movie, but I do have spoilers, a spoiler and non-spoiler review up. The 2 separate videos, so you can check those out at your leisure. But yeah, you're going to want to know who Captain Marvel is, and this is clearly the place to find out. Also explain the Ghost, who is the main villain. It looks like the main villain so far in the upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. And I'm going to be doing a whole bunch more explanations coming soon. I'm also going to be changing my Explained in a Minute stories to more of a top 10 of the characters, so make it a little bit easier to digest. This is literally supposed to be for people who don't know who these characters are. So upcoming should be Bill Foster this Saturday. He is he's played by Lawrence Fishburne in the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. You saw him in the trailer. He's talking to Scott Lang. I'd gotten up to 21 feet. Really? How far did you get up to? 65 feet. Really? So yeah, that's them. Anyway, that being said, in my Marvel FASERIP game explanation, I put up a video talking about charging. Charging is a huge thing. If you remember once again, the Marley shift, I don't think there was anything that Dave wasn't able to do with his character, but using the Marley shift in a way to just charge forward, kind of like, what is it, Shou Lao used to do in the, not Shou Lao, but whatever his name is, the big boss with the hammer in Mortal Kombat 2. Yeah, that dude. Shao Kahn, there he is. He would do that little charge thing, and that's exactly what it looked like when he did the Marley shift. So I explained charging, really simple video, but at the same time, a lot of people don't get the rules for charging, and I'm going to give a couple examples, a couple fun things to do with it. We're obviously going to be talking about the Juggernaut, Rhino, and characters along those lines. And finally, let's talk about Wolverine and Sabretooth. Okay, this one is a little bit hard because doing the bones is just, you're not going to get any of this stuff across on the Adventure League. You know that, right? But for the most part, I think that everybody's got the idea of just using a troll for these two. I would say a half-blooded troll. I would say make him some kind of a human, something to that effect, so he can be kind of short, or even a dwarf. Or, excuse me, think about the benefits there. At the very least, Wolverine as a dwarf and Sabretooth as probably, I don't know, you could probably do a half-orc if you wanted to. So half-orc, half-troll. He's going to look really good. Or just something along those lines. You know what I'm saying? He could even be half-human, but Wolverine himself probably a half-dwarf. Anyway, the way that half will work out is that the immunities excuse me, the vulnerabilities will kind of be wiped out. And of course you could bring things down. So instead of healing let's say 10 points per turn per round, that's a bit excessive. You can maybe make it 5 instead. But he does not have that vulnerability to acid and fire anymore, because that's a bit much for them. For both of them, you can use their claws. For Sabretooth, you can absolutely use that bite. But for Wolverine, I would suggest taking away that bite and giving him another claw attack. So they both get 3 attacks. Sabretooth gets the claw bite. If he gets both claws, he gets that bite, and that bite, man, can bite through steel. As far as Wolverine is concerned, I would do it claw, or just do it claw, so 2 attacks per round. But lucky this dude, just up the damage a little bit, seriously, because that adamantium, and I would probably make it adamantine. Excuse me, there's a lot you could do with this. I really thought about playing around with fighter for him, for his class, because, you know, have the magical weapon that disappears and comes back to him, so it's almost like he's, you know, clawing and, you know, shink and shank, like that. Snicked and snacked, that's actually how he does it. I thought about so many different ways to do this. Of course, I thought about Warlock because of the what do you call it, returning items, but for the most part, honestly, I think that both of them, both Sabretooth and Wolverine, should have several levels of Ranger, and that should probably be their big thing, is Ranger. For Wolverine, you could absolutely do Barbarian, like you could, but I don't know how I feel about that. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm thinking more of Fighter. So I know, Ranger and Fighter, what's the point, Professor Bill? Both of them also, mind you, Hunter, all right? So with Sabretooth, I'd be more akin to giving him the +1 AC because he is just built tougher. Obviously, they're both going to have toughness. What do you call it? But for Wolverine, he's more... He's not quite as sturdy. He's not as strong as Sabretooth. Sabretooth is a lot stronger. It's one of the reasons why the hardest enemy for Wolverine to beat is Sabretooth. And of course, that depends on the writer. But I'm talking about the old Chris Claremont days, who wrote the greatest books in the world, the greatest X-Men stories in the world. Yeah, when Chris Claremont did that, Wolverine always had a hard time with Sabretooth. And when Sabretooth showed up, it was time to be afraid because he was not clowning around. He was going to jack somebody up. So trying to take all those things into consideration, you know, obviously the idea is Barbarian. I would say Barbarian for Sabretooth without the shadow of a doubt. But I'm more akin to the idea of Fighter for Wolverine, because the Savage Strikes and all that stuff and the criticals at 19 and 20, and then later on at higher levels, was at level 15, he'll have 18, 19, and 20 for crits. Wolverine is more about getting that incredible, you know, shot that you just don't expect it. I would also consider giving him at least 1 or 2 levels of Rogue. Just because, you know, of Thief, just because that backstab that he does is out of control. It's out of control. That's also where a lot of his finesse is going to come from. You know what I'm saying? So I would recommend doing that. And yes, I would also make his bladed weapons on the back, I would make them finesse weapons. Wolverine is pretty strong, but he's not by any means at all a brute. I'd say that's more of a finesse weapon for him. So try and keep that in mind. Sabretooth, however, I want you to remember that for the most part nowadays, he also has an adamantium skeleton. He also has his claws, which are extendable. I mean, he can't retract them all the way back, but he can extend them, well, not that far, but, you know, quite a bit further. And they're also adamantium laced. That's just current in the comic books. It's been like that for several years now. Take it, leave it, whatever you want. Make it adamantine. Make it some kind of a magical weapon. Wolverine's claws, you can make them Vorpal. With Sabretooth's claws, you can make them savage, so that they're just, you know, beyond belief. They just do crits all the time, it seems. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you hit, there's a better chance of you critting than just hitting. You know what I'm saying? Most of your hits will be crits. That's Sabretooth. I mean, he's just got those ridiculous savage strikes that just aren't going to heal with a short rest. You know what I'm saying? So consider that. I would consider giving them both extra movement as well. And for the most part, just literally have some fun like that. Wolverine should probably be more... I know that he's got the Berserker Rage, but it's not quite the same as Sabretooth's Berserker Rage. So that's why I'm going more for Barbarian for him. For Wolverine, if you gave him like a single level of Barbarian, I couldn't fault you in the slightest for it. I know a lot of people want to say Monk because he's also very well trained. Sorry, this is where I'm going to go back to the idea that Fighter would be better for him. I know that I think there's only been 2 writers who really made him a master of the martial arts, but for the most part, when we've been reading him in the comic books, he's pretty good. He's proficient. in the martial arts, so proficient with martial weapons, you know, which fighter will give you that. But he's not particularly good. He holds a katana and then pretty soon he drops it and he bares the claws again because he can't hang with people who actually know how to really use their weapons. A fighter of any renown is just going to tick Wolverine off to no end. He'll just drop the weapon and just schnick and go at you like that. And I know there's the idea that, oh, Wolverine can cut through anything. Sorry. When you read the comic books, how many times has Wolverine actually killed somebody? You can count them. You know what I'm saying? That's not a lot. How many? Sabertooth, you can't count the number of people he's killed. So Wolverine, like, he's trying to maintain this karma pool, so to speak, like the MSH RPG game. But yeah, Wolverine is more skilled, but he's not monk level skilled. So yeah, my recommendation is to not delve into monk for this. Just because somebody knows how to fight doesn't mean that they're a monk, you know, right away if they know barehanded. I would absolutely give them both ballroom brawler just because since their knuckles are also laced with adamantium, you know, the bones themselves. Imagine somebody with solid metal, you know, bones punching you in the face, and it's just such a dense metal. I mean, it gives an extra 100 pounds of weight to Wolverine. Wolverine is 5'3". That's why I like the dwarf for him. But he's 5'3" and weighs 190 pounds. Imagine that. Imagine that. That's not all muscle. You know what I'm saying? Not all of it. So a good chunk of, you know, that weight, 50 pounds or so, that's easily the adamantium. So yeah, consider that. And again, the troll blood, I think, you know, diluted. I think that'll really help out. The constitution bonus, all that good stuff. Yeah, I think half orc would probably be the best for Sabertooth. So look, I know these weren't exactly the best ones, but I've only got so much to choose from. I was actually thinking about doing the Fantastic Four, slowly explaining them, maybe all of them throughout a video. Something to that effect. I don't think it'd be that hard. I could do a whole bunch of other Avengers. Give me some idea. I could do DC characters too if you want. You know what I'm saying? Just give me something. But yeah, I don't really watch the cartoons or play video games too much, so I don't know about like Rick and Morty or anything like that. Sorry. Anyway, guys, we're gonna wrap that up. Nerdarchy, right back to you guys. That's it for me, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.